This is Mac OS Ken.
Trump tariffs wreak havoc. iOS 18.4 breaks CarPlay for some people. And new old games hit Apple Arcade. It is Friday, the 4th of April, 2025. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. According to a piece from TechCrunch, Apple's market value dropped by $250 billion on Thursday. Wait, nope, sorry, hold on, that's a mistake. $310 billion, according to a piece from Yahoo Finance. That was the incredibly sad Price is Right horn.
The reason for the sudden downturn? You guessed it, Frank Stallone.
Actually, it was the incredibly stable genius at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Wait, nope, I'm sorry, that's a mistake. He seriously left D.C. for a golf tournament Thursday. At a resort he owns. Recapping, in case you missed it somehow, that early piece from TechCrunch, when Apple had only lost about $250 billion in market value, said President Trump unveiled sweeping tariffs Wednesday afternoon of at least 10% across the board and even higher for some countries. China's total tariff rate soared to 54%. Those go into effect on the 5th of April. All of Apple's biggest suppliers and manufacturing hubs in Asia will be hit, according to TechCrunch. That includes the 54% tariff on imports from China, 32% on Taiwanese imports, 26% on India, 46% on Vietnam, and that list goes on. All of this, the piece points out, despite Apple CEO Tim Cook's effort to court the administration, because nobody thinks the leopard will eat their face. Or we could go sci-fi. Reading Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 earlier this year, I was struck by a speech Guy Montag's boss at the firehouse delivered to Guy. "What a dreadful surprise," said Beatty, "for everyone nowadays knows, absolutely as certain that nothing will ever happen to me. Others die, I go on. There are no consequences and no responsibilities." Except there are. But let's not talk about them, eh? By the time the consequences catch up with you, it's too late, isn't it? But I digress. TechCrunch says the sweeping tariffs on the aforementioned countries means every model of iPhone, iPad, Mac, and accessory that Apple sells will be impacted. Cue Apple cheerleader and Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives, bringing the good news, as he is wont to do. Let's hear what he has to say. I can't wait. According to Mr. Ives, the tariffs are worse than the worst-case scenario for tech investors. In its piece from later in the day, the one written when Apple's market value had dropped by $310 billion, Yahoo Finance had Ives saying, "The worry will be around pricing and margin impacts, along with what this means for the global supply chain looking forward. For now, the analyst continues to believe major negotiations will happen over the coming months as companies attempt to navigate this new world of tariffs. Until then," he warned, "tech stocks will clearly be under major pressure." You know, I saw Trump saying Thursday that, sure, the markets were reacting negatively, but he wasn't worried because it's like surgery. Except it happened with no anesthetic, no painkillers in post-op, and no apparent plans for rehab or physical therapy. Walk it off, sissy! Want to know the last time Apple had a day as bad as yesterday? It was March of 2020. The markets reacted Thursday on par with the way they reacted when the world went into lockdown. In other news that's really just the same news, I think TF International analyst Ming-Chi might be high. First of all, he went to Twitter, which seriously, dude, read the room. Second, he thinks he sees a few ways out of this. I mean for Apple, not for, people. In a post that would have been just fine on Medium, Young MC pointed out that if Apple keeps prices unchanged, its overall gross margin could significantly drop by an estimated 8.5 to 9%. So guess what he thinks Apple should do? In the US market, says the analyst, high-end iPhones account for 65 to 70% of new model sales, and high-end consumers are relatively more accepting of price increases, so yeah. Apple could also use many strategies like increasing carrier subsidies or cutting trade-in program discounts to offset tariff costs, while softening the perception of price hikes. The analyst also thinks Apple could squeeze the supply chain, putting greater pressure on most suppliers to cut costs. Now, while I said his ideas were for Apple getting through this and not for you, it's not like he spares no thought for people. According to the analyst, the medium to long-term focus should be on the potential macroeconomic fallout from the Trump administration's new tariff policies, as weaker consumer confidence and purchasing power could lengthen Apple's device replacement cycles. It's so nice to be remembered, isn't it? You know the phrase, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail? I do. I'm talking about what's going on in the world through the lens of Apple. In that vein, UploadVR had a very pertinent question to UploadVR. Will Trump's new tariffs drive up headset prices in the US? Now, I haven't read the article yet, but I'm going to go with yes. Now, I will read the article. Don't worry, you don't have to wait while I do that. Oh, turns out the answer is yes. I mean likely. According to the report, most headsets today, including Apple Vision Pro, Meta Quest, PlayStation VR 2, and Pico, are made in either China, Vietnam, or both. While Trump has already placed a 20% tariff on Chinese imports in recent months, headset companies could plausibly absorb those added costs, and he hadn't yet applied the tariff to electronics made in Vietnam. But with tariffs moving to 54% and 46% for China and Vietnam respectively, it seems very unlikely that most headset companies will be able to avoid increasing prices. I did say likely, though. There is slight room for maybe not. The same UploadVR piece points out that manufacturers and retailers are probably already sitting on a decent stockpile of existing units, so prices shouldn't jump when the tariffs go into effect on the 9th of April. If the administration makes deals with other countries before that stock runs out, prices might not go up. But if stock runs out, supply relies on new imports, and no deals are reached.
Stop it all!
If you want to view the daily economic news as the Bloodsport cable has turned it into in real time, there's another way to do so without cable. A piece from iDownload blog says the CNBC Plus streaming service has launched streaming options for Roku and Apple TV. Built into their existing apps, prices for the streaming bit here in the States are set at $15 a month or $150 a year, whether subscribing through the app or on the web. The streaming service is also available on iPhone, iPad, Android phones, and desktop browsers. If you want to try before you buy, go someplace with cable. There is no free trial for the streaming service, according to the report. You know, given the events of the last 48 hours, I feel like a free trial might have actually hooked people. Oh well. It seems iOS 18.4 has broken CarPlay for some users. That's the word from 9 to 5 Mac. In threads on Reddit and elsewhere, the piece has iPhone users saying they're experiencing a wide range of bugs with CarPlay since this week's update. Those run from annoyances like the now playing function not saying what's playing to bigger issues like won't stay connected. Some say they're having to plug and unplug multiple times to make the connection take, while at least one person said to get a sustained CarPlay connection, they had to restart their car. The issue runs a range of cars, including Audi, Ford, Honda, Mazda, and Volkswagen. A user on Reddit says VW told them that the problems are with Apple's iOS 18.4 and that it's up to Apple to fix the issues. No acknowledgement so far from the Cupertino company. Apple updated its productivity suite on Thursday. Pages, Numbers, and Keynote were each up to version 14.4. Each receive little niggling nerdy updates specific to each title and support for Apple Intelligence. Specifically, each will let users make text edits using writing tools directly in their documents, spreadsheets, or presentations. Of course, to take advantage of Apple Intelligence features, you'll need a machine that can do Apple Intelligence. That means a Mac with an M1 processor or later, an iPhone 15 Pro or later, an iPad with an M-series processor or the latest iPad mini. Users will also need the latest versions of iOS, iPadOS, and or macOS, according to the report. And finally today, if you're looking to go back to a time both simpler and less fraught, Apple Arcade may be your place to play. A piece from Mac Rumors says Apple's subscription gaming service has welcomed a number of new titles. Some new and some new old. They include Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic, Katamari Damacy Rolling Live, The Game of Life 2, Sesame Street Mecha Builders, Space Invaders Infinity, Gene Evolve, and Puffies. While I am sure I will never actually play Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic, I have gone ahead and downloaded it. You never know, I could surprise us. This week on the checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac, we are looking at VPNs. This in the wake of the free VPNs with ties to the Chinese military, found last year and still found today in Apple's App Store. We'll let some basic VPN information, talk times they've been misused, and discuss looking for the right one for you. That is all on checklist number 418. Find it today at securemac.com/checklist or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Leonard likes this post.